Well, good afternoon and welcome back to Fire Station 10. We're always excited to have visitors at any one of your Seattle fire stations. As you remember, a couple of months ago, we were here when the mayor delivered her vision for the city, and today the mayor is here to sign the budget. But before we get started with that, I would like to introduce a few people who are here with us today. Behind me, I have Councilmember Lisa Hobo. To my left, Councilmember Sally BAGSHAW, Finance Chair. Councilmember Mike O'Brien, Local 17 Representative Amy Bowles, Seattle Police Department Guild President Kevin Stuckey, and Kenny, you're not getting away by sitting in the seats right there, Local 27 President Kenny Stewart. And I thought I saw Local 2898 President Tom Walsh, but I don't see him right now. I want to touch on a couple of things before I turn the microphone over to the mayor. 1 year in office this week, this day, and I want to thank the mayor for her ongoing support of the Seattle Fire Department, but I also want to thank her for her service. It's a timeless, thankless job being the mayor of a great city like Seattle. It keeps her on her toes, keeps her busy, but she continues to do the work to make sure that the employees of the city have what they need and the community members have what they need. She has visited so many fire stations over the past year, and Mayor Durkan, we want to thank you for that. It means a lot to all of our firefighters. And now I would like to introduce the 56th mayor of the city of Seattle, Mayor Jenny Durkan.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Thank you to the men and women who work here in Station 10, or 10s as we call it. Thank you to the other firefighters who are here as well and the other people who work for our city. I want to thank the council members behind me and those who couldn't join us. I know that the budget process can be an arduous one. There's a lot of decisions to be made and finite resources. I can tell the people of Seattle that every single council member rolled up his or her sleeves and really went to work trying to figure out how did we deliver the best services we could to the city of Seattle, how did we make sure that we took care of the most vulnerable, and how did we build that city of the future going forward, which is the most vibrant city anywhere that continues to invent the future. So I want to thank the council members who were here and those who couldn't be here. So sometimes it seems like things in the city are measured in dog years and not days or weeks, but it was just 2 months ago that I was here in Station 10 announcing the budget and rolling it out. I proposed a balanced budget that reflects our values in Seattle and sets a guide for our work going forward into the future. We know it is a year before us that we must continue to act urgently to seize opportunities and create an affordable, just, and vibrant Seattle. A budget that makes sure that we would invest in the essential services that residents rely upon, deserve, and pay for. Things like public safety, transportation, water, clean, reliable electricity, and our first responders. A budget that would act with urgency to address our challenges of affordability, housing, and homelessness. Every day, particularly now as the weather turns more bleak, we have to think about those people who are the least advantaged, living outside, making sure that we do what we need to do as a city to bring them inside and provide affordable housing. This is a budget that stands up for Seattle's values: inclusion, equity, and defending our most vulnerable neighbors. It's also a budget that helps create a more vibrant city into the future. When I ran for mayor, when I took office, I made a promise to Seattle that I would act urgently to make sure that our budget reflected our values, that we used our resources wisely, and that we build a city that centers on community, looks to the future, and continues to lead on creating economic opportunity for everyone. The goals of inclusion and economic opportunity have guided us these past 12 months. From giving Seattle's young people free Orca passes, a passport to their city, to urgent action on homelessness, to protecting our immigrant and refugee neighbors against all sorts of challenges and threats from Washington, D.C. We will continue to build a true welcoming Seattle and provide economic opportunity for everyone. This budget invests on those promises and commitments so that we can live within our means. At the outset of this project, we were facing some great hurdles. We know that a tax measure that had been proposed failed, and we were looking to make sure that millions and millions of dollars of services that people were depending on could continue. We went through a very, very detailed budget process and were able to come up with $50 million in efficiencies, reprioritize that spending to make sure that we could continue those services that were most needed in Seattle. With this budget, we are investing $1 billion in utility services like power, clean drinking water, garbage, and recycling. It's a staggering amount of money, but those are things that no city can do without, let alone the city of the future. We'll invest nearly $700 million in public safety, including new police officers and new fire recruits. You're getting some help, people. We're going to invest $609 million in transit and transportation. We know people in Seattle will take transit if it is where they need it to be and goes where they want to go. We have one of the highest ratios of people who ride transit anywhere in the country. We need more transit as quickly as we can, and it's got to be reliable. And without raising taxes, we will invest nearly $90 million in addressing our crisis of homelessness, while never forgetting that we need our partners in the region and the state to step up and be at the table. We did this while also funding $49 million in savings that I identified in the budget process. It's tricky to fund all of our priorities with the limited revenue growth that we have. So I especially, again, want to thank the City Council for going to work and making sure that they had a budget that could live and sustain into the future, that reflected our values and that would endure past any person sitting in office. We worked a lot of long days and long nights, both on my floor and the second floor and throughout this city. No department escaped work in the budget season. We required every department to dig deep, to reprioritize, and to think about what was the most important work they were doing today and what was the most important work that they would be doing 5 and 10 years from now. So I want to thank everyone for their work and for their partnerships. I'm particularly grateful to Councilmember Sally BAGSHAW for her tireless and usually thankless work as chair of the Select Budget Committee, and for leading her colleagues to evaluate and approve this budget with the changes that Council felt were most important. She did this all the while ensuring that community could be heard throughout the process. I also want to thank my cabinet. Every one of our department heads worked really hard throughout this process, not just in putting the budget together, but after we presented to City Council to go back to work and make sure that we could justify what our priorities were and work with Council to find other areas where perhaps we could reprioritize money. Even as I signed the budget today, the work has already started for next year. We know that our hard work continues, not just to frame how we will spend our money, but the more important thing is, how will we do our work? How will we serve the people of Seattle? Using this budget as our guide, we must continue to be a steward of taxpayers' dollars, but we also have to invest in an affordable, inclusive Seattle that will endure to the future. I've said it many times, but I'll say it again. I want my kids and their kids to love Seattle as much as I do. And that will happen if we all come together and do our jobs. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to Sally BAGSHAW, who chaired the Select Budget Committee.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. My good friend, the mayor, thank you for your kind words. Chief Scoggins, thank you for having us over here. I want to say special thanks to my colleagues, Michael Bryan and Lisa Herbold. You were stunningly helpful during this process, and I appreciated that very much. And also to my firefighter friends and first responders, thank you for the work you do, and for bringing us down in this spotless Station 10. I'm sure it looks like this all the time, and I just want to remark on how much I appreciate you and the work that you do, and I'm going to get into a little bit more of that as I'm talking. And I should say to my colleagues back here, there are chairs, and if you'd like to sit down, I recommend you do that, because I was advised that I could speak for a few moments. Yes, today. I would say it is a warning and it's an invitation. So anyway, just back to saying thanks. I want to acknowledge that the mayor and I are really, truly in sync. And during this budget, and thanks to my council colleagues, we are expanding services for people who are most vulnerable. We're extending treatment on demand, and many of you counseled me on that we need to have more places for people to go to have buprenorphine or methadone, something that is immediately available for them. We have and will be building more supportive housing. And we're going to be reforming our criminal justice system, working with not just the city council, obviously, but with the mayor, with our muni court judges, with across the street from the city hall, with our King County prosecuting attorney and the judges over there. We are really looking and evaluating what and how can we change our system so that more people are getting what they need and the treatment and services that they need, rather than putting people in jail and just going through that spin cycle of a few days and out and a few more days and out. And we also, in this budget, increased wages for our human services providers. Granted, it was a small beginning of 2%, but that made a difference in how people appreciated the fact that we recognize the good work that they're doing. We've also added capital improvement dollars in some place that I call Yesler Crescent, and again, more to that in a moment. So I want to talk about something that was my top priority, and again, many of you advised me on it, and I want to say thanks especially to Kenny Stewart, because you came to me in May and talked about a problem that you and many of your coworkers were having, and that was you were being attacked down here. You were finding that you were having to send more and more people to respond to the same people over and over again. And Chief Scoggins pulled together data for me so we could see the number of people that were being responded to, but what would happen is that they would be taken up to Harborview, then there would be a quick hour or perhaps an overnight, and they were being released without having a warm handoff or the care that they needed on an ongoing basis. And I learned from the two of you and from your buddy John Ehrenfeld that there were things that we could do differently. So what many of you are trying to do is that response to the acute, immediate crisis. But what we are seeing with people on the street is a low acuity. It is a constant. It is behavioral health or mental health or a co-occurring disorder for them where they really need help. And so our integrated health response team project was born. And this was started last spring because there's a recognition that we could do things different and better so that you all who were, once again, trained for that high acuity didn't have to respond to the same people and then just see that spin cycle of taking them to Harborview, having them released with nothing better. So we worked with many of you. We worked with our first responders in other cities as well and talked with them. And our public health leaders about what could we do to streamline service coordination, but also improve outcomes for the patients. I'm trying to find ways so that you who are trained to do things that require that acute emergency need, whether it's in a ladder truck or otherwise, can do the work you're doing without being called over and over again to pick up the same people that might be on the sidewalk. So this was really a goal, a double win I was looking for. And I understand that beginning of the first quarter of 2019, working with the mayor's office and your department heads, working with Ben Noble, who said, you gotta give us some time. I said, great, but I wanna challenge you to get this operational by the first quarter. We plan and plan and plan sometimes in this city, but what I wanna do in 2019 is have this is the year of action. This is the year that we take what we know and we make it happen. So I understand that our first mobile health response team will be self-selected, that those who want to participate will. You're not going to be voluntold to participate in this. And we will have appropriate sized vehicles with the appropriate equipment, and we will be able to have a pilot downtown to see how it works, with the idea that as you find someone on the sidewalk, you will have the connections, and it might be our crisis connections at Northgate, where you can find out, where can I take this individual? Is it the sobering center? Is it our crisis solution center? Must it be Harborview? Is there something in between? And then the next day, that individual will have that warm handoff and know where that the individual is going to go with the care or case management that they need. So again, I want to say big thanks. Chief Scoggins, Kenny, our mayor, John Ehrenfeld, wherever he is, thank you very much, because you were the ones that got us started on this. So something that my staff hears me say at least 12 times a day is that we have to have regional solutions. The mayor and I think, probably can arm wrestle for who says regional the most a day. So as we're looking at trying to build more housing, what we know around this city and the county and our tri-county and maybe four-county area, if you add Kitsap to this, is we have to have hundreds of thousands of more housing units to address the needs of people who are here and the people we know are already coming. We can debate, is it 200,000, is it 100,000, but we've had 3 studies over the last year that have indicated to us that if we're really going to address the needs of people who are homeless, as well as people who are dealing with modest incomes, we need at least 100,000 more units over the next decade, not across the city of Seattle alone, but across King County and the Tri-County and perhaps 4-county area. I really am going to be working with this mayor and other visionary leaders to make sure that we fund, that we're able to fund, and that we have big movement towards this regional approach. Claudia Balducci, our King County Council member from Bellevue, has been fabulous. I want to recognize Rod Dembowski as well as my council colleagues here, Councilmember Herbold, Councilmember O'Brien, and others. We're going to make this happen this year. You know that San Francisco did something pretty marvelous, but we need to do something as well that includes the labor community, our business community, the philanthropy, and nonprofits. I do not believe we can make this go on our own. And I want to acknowledge once again, Ben Noble, thank you very much for helping us turn over the seat cushions to see was there money under there that we could use to look in under every possible rock, because there are some special projects that mean a lot to me. One is our Yesler Crescent at City, behind the county, what's called City Hall Park, Fortson Square, Pioneer Square, the work we're going to be doing in Belltown and Uptown and Queen Anne and Magnolia. It makes a difference that we had the partnership and the money to be able to do this and complete our waterfront. The viaduct is coming down at the end of this year. We've got a lot of work to connect our downtown and neighbors. And during this time, of course, with I love the term, which is the time of maximum traffic constraint, we've got to figure out ways and really build on what we know to move people and goods downtown, in and through downtown. And we're going to be doing this. Councilmember Herbold and I have been also looking at what can we do on First Avenue for a dedicated lane, whether it's buses or other alternative modes of transportation. Councilmember O'Brien and I are absolutely committed to making sure our downtown bicycle network is working and moving forward faster. I ride my bike all the time, and as I told somebody last week, twice in a week I came within inches of getting nailed by a car. Now I got to tell you, this doesn't make me feel good. And I'm going to continue riding my bike, but I would like to have it safer. And if we're doing an all ages and abilities model, we've really got to get these bicycle network connections done. So working with that and big freight and making sure that packages can get delivered while we're seeing such a time, I know that we can make progress, that the vision is there, the money is there, the know-how is there. Putting our arms around each other to get it done is what I'm dedicated to do. And I just want to say thank you one more time, Mayor Durkan, who is a good friend, her department heads, all of you who are here, my friends from the firefighters and the first responders, thank you so much for working with me. It's a joy and a privilege, and to be spending the next year, 2019, really getting this to happen. So thank you all very much.
So I know there's going to be some Q&A. We're going to sign first and then take some questions. Come on in, guys.
Yeah.
You get one of these pieces.
Thank you. The big J.
Can't just break my name up. It's trying to multiple pins. I think I should totally modify my signature.
You learn how to do one letter at a time.
I guess I got it. Look at all those pens.
Couldn't do it.
But you can spend it.
I can.
Believe it.
I'm giving you a lot to spend.
Ever get there and then wonder what the next vowel is?
You want to buy an A?
Yeah, exactly. Nice.
We officially have a balanced budget that prioritizes what Seattle needs in the future.
Fantastic.
I don't know if there's any questions. No questions? Perfect. Oh, Essex, you have a question.
Two things. Would you, on pretty close to your anniversary taking office, reflect on this year as mayor, but also tell us what are your top priorities of things that you didn't finish this year that you want to tackle in 2019?
That's a great question. I will tell you that the absolute best thing about the past year of being mayor in Seattle is the people of Seattle. And I've been lucky to be out a lot. I'm actually leaving here and going directly to a series of, I think, 3 or 4 community events, roundtables, meetings, celebrations, and we'll do more of those tomorrow, to get back to people, to continue to listen, and to thank them for all that they've done for the city in the last year and for me as mayor. I think our next year is to make sure that we continue to tackle those challenges that we know are the challenges that face our city. It starts with affordability. Seattle's just getting too expensive. We have to make sure that people can actually live in Seattle and work in Seattle. So we have to do more to make that a reality. We also have to continue our work on the homeless issues. People experiencing homelessness face a whole array of challenges and come from a variety of places in life. Working together with the county executive, I hope soon to have a proposal for joint governance so we can make sure that all the services are working together. And I'm already talking to people at the state level, both in the governor, the state senate, and the House, to see how do we make sure that we're looking at those root causes of homelessness so that we can statewide really address this challenge. Another really, really big thing that happened this year, and I think we all have to reflect on that next year we're going to start making real, is the Seattle Education Promise and Preschool Levy. It will provide so much opportunity to families and to our kids so that more families can get good, free daycare, that our kids can really learn in school and graduate on time, and then if they do what they are supposed to do, we're going to do what we've promised to do and give them opportunity with 2 years college and the support services they need. So I'm looking forward to the next year, continuing to get out, listen to the people of Seattle. The best ideas I've heard usually come from out in community. We can't fix it from City Hall. We've got to listen to Seattle, and I plan to continue doing that. Go ahead, Matt.
So it's a word that you used again, regional. Can you just say, are you disappointed with the other cities and county government that they haven't stepped up to the plate in terms of affordable housing and homeless issues? I mean, we've used that term regional and talking with regional partners, but it seems like it's a long process. And are you disappointed that other people have not stepped up to the plate?
I'm actually very encouraged by the level of conversation I've been having, not just this year, but particularly in the last 6 months. Look, Seattle and the whole region grew faster than anybody could have anticipated. Nobody projected how quickly we would grow. We're the fastest growing city in America. And with that has been great opportunities. You know, we have the best restaurants in America. We have some of the best nature in America, but we also have some of those great challenges. So I've had some very, very good conversations. You know, nobody who's elected to office enters office and is given a magic wand. You know, we know that these problems have been years in the making. There are deep institutional reasons for a lot of the things we see show up on our streets. That's why we have to attack it as a collective. That's why we got to come together. So I'm very hopeful that the state, the counties, the other cities will continue to see how it's in their interest to step up on these issues. And I'm optimistic. I know it surprises you that I'm optimistic. I want to thank everyone. I also, again, just want to thank the chief and everybody here in Station 10 and across every police precinct and every fire station in this city. The growing city has presented a challenge to our first responders in a way that not all of us experience, no matter how we experience it. Day in, day out, they are the front lines on these challenges. The job has become harder. They're there at the intersection of public safety and mental health. They're there making sure that not just we stay safe, but that our most vulnerable get the care they need. So my deep, deep, deep appreciation to all our first responders. All right, everyone, have a great December. Oh, and did I mention hockey? Yeah. Coming your way in December.